I mean, if you have the right touch, you might only need to touch someone once or twice. I don't know.
You can say that again. No, but seriously.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Women Your Mother Warned You About. I'm Gina Tremarco.
And I'm Rachel Tipton.
And today we are talking about overwhelm.
OMG.
Overwhelm is a killer. It can kill your business. It can kill your life. It can kill your health. And the reason why I wanted to talk about overwhelm, this recently happened to me, is, well, there's a lot of overwhelm that happens, especially as women. I think we take on so much and get overwhelmed so much because we take on so much. But I got overwhelmed recently because my dog, Lola, who's 13 and a half, she's slightly going into dementia and she's been having some health issues. And, you know, as a dog mom, I'm not a mom, but I'm a dog mom. As a dog mom, I had to make a decision. Do I take her to the vet or do I continue doing what I needed to do for clients? And luckily I wasn't like on site with a client, but I needed to make a really tough decision and take her to the vet to take care of her. And I did that. And when I called the vet, I said, hey, I got this situation going on with my dog. Can I come in? And they gave me this, and it's normal, but I was a little pissy about it.
You pissy, Gina? I don't know about that.
It happens. So I said, you know, can I bring my dog in? This is what's going on. And the response was, well, you can come here and sit here and we'll see where we can fit you in between appointments, which sent me in a tizzy because I was emotionally overwhelmed with what was going on with my dog. So it was the best I could do. And I think I was a little snippy with them. I can't remember. But I had a conference call I had to be on with our bookkeeper, which I hate bookkeeping. And I'm like, God, I would love to cancel this. But I'm like, when am I going to do? Why do I keep putting this off? I'm like, so I called the bookkeeper and said, we can still keep our same time, but know that I'm going to be at the vet. And sure enough, right as they took me was at the exact time of the appointment. And luckily they took my dog back to like give her some hydration. So they're sticking a needle in my dog to hydrate her while I'm literally juggling a bookkeeper call, sitting in a cold vet room with a cold steel table and saying, I don't have my books in front of me. What do you need to know? And so that's just life. That's life. Whether you work for someone or you're running your own business, I think it's a little more stressful when you're running your own business. But when you work for someone too, it's a challenge because like, hey, boss, they don't want to hear it. Right?
Right. I think that women, no offense to men, because we love men, right, Gina? We love men.
We love men.
I think that women are just built, we're just equipped better to multitask, things like that, because of our inherent mom skills. And, you know, I had a discussion with some other girlfriends last night about, are dog moms any less of moms than regular moms? And in my opinion, I don't think that there's really any difference because your feelings of concern, your desire to keep your pet or your child fed and healthy and happy, they're all the same needs. So I don't personally think that being a dog mom is any less of being a mom. You know, the only difference is you've got kids that eventually learn to speak English or whatever language you speak. So I do, going back to multitasking, you know, I think we're just built that way because naturally the female, you know, has children or takes care of the tribe, you know, back in the olden days.
Back in the cavemen.
Like women, that's our job. We take care of things. And so we have to be able to multitask. And I think that's what helps, or that's what leads to women getting so overwhelmed sometimes because we have all these things that we naturally are worried about and concerned about in terms of our daily life. And women who are working, we have all of our work obligations. And we also don't want something like our child or our dog being at the vet or at the doctor to interfere with our level of professionalism
or to appear
right
as if we're letting it interfere, because then we appear what? Weak.
Yeah. And I have a friend right now, I know, and she's not really saying it, but we around her know it. She's a new mom. She's super duper overwhelmed because I remember it and I know that women do it. And frankly, I warned this girl about it and said, hey, if you get overwhelmed, let me know. I know how that feels. Like when you're a brand new mom, and probably the same when you're the mom of a puppy, like you don't want anybody to know that you're not completely perfectly capable of doing everything that's necessary to take care of this child or this baby or this puppy. Like, God forbid someone find out that you can't handle it and that you didn't know what to do and that you also don't look perfect while you're doing it. Like, so instead of asking for help, a lot of times we women will just act like everything's fine. And then you end up crashing and burning. Like,
or you reach a certain age where you're like, I don't really give a shit. I'm not perfect. And I want you to see it. I want you to see that I'm flawed, because I think, and I've really come to own this lately, especially like having like really great girlfriends now, which I felt like I didn't have for a good 10 years, trying to find our way through a certain decade of years. And I finally got to a point where I felt comfortable with who I am, what I say, what I do. And even sometimes when I do that from a, like, let's say social media perspective, some people are like, are you sure you want to come off that way? What if your clients see that? And I said, you know what? I would rather my clients see me exactly for who I am. And sometimes I'm messed up. Sometimes I'm not perfect. Sometimes I've got issues. It doesn't make me any less when it comes to being an expert at what I do. Like, it still makes, I'm still great at engaging people and sales and leading a team. And I'm still really effective at that, even through the chaos.
Chaos and overwhelm. Are you feeling overwhelmed today?
I'm not feeling overwhelmed today.
Gina, good for you.
I was feeling overwhelmed yesterday.
Yeah.
We both were. We were both feeling overwhelmed as we were messaging each other. And you're like, yeah. So some of your messages came back to me quickly, some of them slowly. I think we know each other well enough to know when we need things from each other, not to push too hard. But what about clients? What happens when we overwhelm a prospect from the sales process? What happens when we overwhelm them? Have you ever done that, Rachel?
I'm sure that I have, Gina. I think like the classic example is vomiting all over a prospect and overwhelming them with your sales vomit. And I'm totally guilty of that. I've been there, done that. I try now to, the one skill that I'm constantly working on that I think is the best way to help prevent overwhelm in a prospect or client is to listen more and ask the right questions, but not too many of them, and then listen. And like asking too many questions or giving too much information, that tends to overwhelm. So,
oh, you are preaching to the choir. This is something that we talk about a lot at Pivot 10 Results when we do sales training. Stop asking so many questions, which seems not, I mean, it seems anti-sales. I mean, I get pushback all the time when we're in trainings of, but we have to ask questions. You have to, ask the right questions. And sometimes all you need to ask are one or two questions. And they will spill their guts to you, tell you everything about their life, their business, their challenges, their dreams. Sometimes all you have to say is, tell me more about that. And not ask so many questions, because the questions overwhelm people. Something that we teach our clients a lot about, tell me more versus asking so many questions, because people love to talk about themselves. And when you say, tell me more, it shows that you're interested versus an interrogation, because too many questions can feel like an interrogation. Too many choices can create overwhelm. How has that shown up, or has that shown up for you in real estate, Rachel? Like, home buyers or home sellers, where's that overwhelm come in? Maybe too many choices or too many options or too many things.
Absolutely, Gina. It happens all the time because the home buying process can be confusing and overwhelming for every home buyer, basically because most people, unless they're investors, only purchase a home every 5 to 10 years. And in 5 to 10 years, the home buying process changes, or they just can't remember how it works. So with my prospects and clients, I like to not give them too many steps in the process. Some people like to see the whole process, which is why I wrote a how to buy a home guide that you can find at www.theclosingcurve.com. You can download that just so you can see what is the process from A to Z of your transaction. But when I'm in the midst of the process with clients, I like to just tell them what is the next step that they need to worry about. The first step you need to do is, and that's, people will call me and say, hey, I've been on Zillow. I've been looking at this house and this house and this house and this house. And I say, great, that is awesome. I can't wait to help you with that. Have you spoken to your lender? And they go, oh, whoa, well, we wanted to find our house first, and then we're going to talk to their lender. And I have to guide them backwards to the very first step, which sometimes people don't realize, that preliminary step of getting pre-qualified and knowing what you can buy. And then I just give them one step at a time, because like you said, giving them too many things to do or too many options or too many choices, it just gets them overwhelmed.
Well, that's interesting because you think about the excitement factor in the buying process.
Absolutely.
Right? So the buyer's journey, they're excited, sometimes, not always, but I'm a big believer in people will find the money for the things that they need and they want.
It's true.
Right? They will find the money. So when you are struggling with closing a deal and you're like, oh, they don't have the money. We always find the money. We were just talking about that at breakfast this morning. I need a new laptop. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I will find it's not budgeted, but it's going to happen because it has to happen. And there are sometimes things dangled in front of me. I'm like, this is the last thing I need to be spending money on, but I want it. So there's that excitement factor that can create overwhelm too for the buyer, because the sticker shock is sticker shock. It's getting them through the overwhelm of the sticker shock. And even on the home buying, you were helping me and you're like, have you been pre-qualified? And we're friends. And I'm like, yes, I have. Right. And it's so transparent on this. So I go through this whole process only to find out it's very hard when you're self-employed in real estate.
It is very difficult.
To
Self-employment in real estate is challenging. So if you are self-employed and thinking of buying, have a good long conversation with your lender.
Yeah, really go through that homework, because I was pre-qualified. And then boom, after making an offer, which has to be frustrating for a realtor, even though we're friends, then all of a sudden I was no longer qualified. So there's that, the anticlimactic piece as a buyer. And then I was tenacious. I'm like, I will find a lender. And I went through 5 lenders until I finally gave up. And I'm like, you know what? It's not in the cards right now.
For now,
I'm happy I went through the process. But now I'm still a buyer. I just wasn't a buyer at that moment. So what's really important is, how do you, Rachel, continue to nurture that relationship with me to keep me, coming back? If you didn't know me, what would you do next? Even though I couldn't buy at that time.
Well, there's 1,000 tricks that realtors use and everyone in business uses, of just touching on your client base on a consistent basis, checking up on them. And really, I try to do it in a genuine way of just, hey, what's going on? Been thinking about you. What's happening in your life? Because that is a way that I can just open up the conversation to see where you're at. Because I don't have to always say, hey, are you still thinking about buying that condo that you couldn't buy before? Because that's a little bit more of an affront, or could be perceived as an attack more, instead of, hey, what's going on with you? And if I call a client who I've had a working relationship in terms of real estate, they know why I'm calling, but it's more refreshing and probably easier conversation for me to say, hey, what's up with you lately? Let them tell me what's going on. And they're going to circle around and get to the point of well, I'm still working on that situation with my lender and I still am interested in buying. Or they're going to say, hey, thanks so much for helping me in that situation. I just don't think it's the right time for me. And that's fair, because then maybe in another 6 months, it will be the right time. There's some sort of number, and you probably know what it is because you're a sales trainer, of how many times you need to touch on a prospect before you actually get to the sale.
You know what? There's a million, I've read a million different things about touch 10 times, touch 8 times, touch 5 times. If you have the right touch, you might only need to touch someone once or twice. I don't know.
You can say that again. No, but seriously, I think as people get
You have to
better
touch.
in training, I've been in sales trainings. I'm in the Tom Ferry coaching program, and I've been to sales trainings with Bill Pipes as one of his script trainers, like how to engage with your prospect. He's absolutely genius. Like, he's amazing. It's like magic watching him deal with objections, handle objections, and interact with just even a role-playing situation. It's like anything else. Like, if you've got 10,000 hours of practice on something, you're going to be better at it than somebody who's just a novice. So in sales as well, if you practice the techniques of how to follow up, how to touch on the clients, you're going to get better at asking the right questions and touching on them in the right way rather than just like a random poke.
Touching and poking. That's what we're talking about today on Women Your Mother Warned You About. Touching and poking. Oh gosh, along that real estate line. So when I went through that process with you, right, on buying something, because I was determined to buy an investment property, and
we'll get back to that.
It was a good experience, but I went through so many different mortgage and bank people. Some who are very annoying. You bankers, you need some help. You need some serious help. Get off your frickin' scripts. That's what I want to say. Because they're so stuck on their scripts. Anyway, I found this one guy, and now I can't remember his name for the life of me because he hasn't touched or poked me lately. He was amazing, and he was so great in the process, even as I was like bummed out. And he was like guy number 4 to reject me, mortgage person number 4 to reject me. But he was so great, even as I like got bummed out about it. Like, I had like this emotional bum out, and he's like, Gina, it's okay. This is good. This is good. Now you know what you need to do as a self-employed person, and you're going to need to show financially. And he's like, this is just good that you got the process started. And he was so good at like coddling my emotions that I'm like, this is the guy. When I buy, this is the guy.
Well, and it sounds like that he had a really firm grasp on wanting to help you, Gina, rather than just make the sale, so to speak, because, mortgage brokers are in it to make their money too.
Right.
And that's so crucial, is to make sure that you're struggling with trying to make a purchase, and he's trying to help you make the purchase. And I think salespeople fall short a lot of times, like in retail or in everything. They just, if they see you struggling, they're like, oh, well, whatever. And they move on to the next thing rather than really, how can I best help this person make it through this struggle and reach their desired result? And so he's probably wise enough to know that if he gives you the right level of care and helps you with your emotions, that you will come back to him when it's time.
Do you know our first conversation that we had, that he and I had, he called me, and I think I was traveling, and I was in the car talking to him, and we talked for a good 45 minutes. Never about what I was trying to purchase. He was so amazing. And then when he heard I was a sales trainer, he's like, how am I doing? He was so amazing because he spent that whole conversation engaging me from the get-go. He's like, so what is it that you do? Like, which would be a normal thing for a mortgage person to ask, to understand what our business is and what money looks like. But he became so seemingly interested in our business and what we do and the improv theater. And he was so enamored by it. And he just wanted, like, oh my gosh, this would be, boy, the mortgage industry could use improv training. I'm like, yeah, it could. But we really had this really long conversation about me. And for me, that was uncomfortable because I do that to people. I'm like, no, let's talk about you again. But he made it all about me in that initial conversation. And maybe that's why I'm like, this guy's amazing.
Mm-hmm. How much overwhelmed did you feel during that conversation with him?
0.
That's awesome.
0 overwhelm. There was no overwhelm in that conversation.
It's definitely, the lending process is probably the most overwhelming process in the home buying process because it's confusing. You sometimes now, since the housing crash and then the recovery of the market, lenders have so many strict guidelines, and sometimes they need that same piece of paperwork again. It's because, and people get confused. I've had buyers who have perfect credit and plenty of money in the bank, and they're like, why does this stupid lender need this other document again? And I just say, look, just keep a file on your desktop, so when they ask for it, you have it and you don't have to go hunting. Just understand this is part of the way that it works now. And sometimes it's another person that needs that document. So try not to get overwhelmed. Just understand that there's a lot of people involved in this process.
So, Rachel, what are some other tips that we could share with our listeners about how to overcome overwhelm in your personal life and in your sales life and in your customers' sales life? How can you help them? How can you help yourself overcome this overwhelm situation that can actually kill your business or your health or your life?
Number one tip, Gina, would be to breathe.
Oh, I was going to say that. Okay, go on.
You can also elaborate, but because it's crucial and it's the most basic of human functions. If you're not breathing, you're not going to stay alive. Yet, if you really take a look at yourself during the day, or especially in a stressful and overwhelming situation, you are usually holding your breath. And if we just take a moment to breathe, it calms down the body physically. It clears your mind. There's a book that I've mentioned before. It's called With Winning in Mind. And I can't remember the author, but he was an Olympic sharpshooter. And it's a great book for any sport or also for sales and life in general, because he talks about just focusing your energy. And especially he talks about before he takes the shot, just breathe in and breathe out to relax the mind and body so that he can hit his target better. And I think we forget about that and we just get so caught up. So if you're in the middle of an argument with your significant other, if you're in a stressful sales situation, if you are, worried about something going on with your health or your children, just like 5 or 10 seconds of breathing will make a huge difference.
I know it sounds very woo-woo of us, but breathing is everything. We
forget about it.
Yeah, I try to put Post-it notes around to tell me to breathe and smile.
I used to, when I was a fitness trainer, I used to tell people to use time at a stoplight. When you're at a stoplight, instead of checking your phone, which I do all the time, just use that time at a stoplight to breathe, take a few deep breaths in and out. And I'm not so great about it lately because I'm a little overwhelmed, but to get up in the morning and have some quiet time to reflect on the day ahead, prepare yourself for what must be accomplished, do a little meditation. Meditation's another thing.
I was just going to say one thing that I've failed at for the last week is meditation. So that's a good reminder, because when I do start the day with meditation, it really sets the tone for the day. Again, woo-woo. I mean, we're two tough broads, I like to say. We're two sassy broads.
I'm an ass kicker, but I'm big time on meditation.
But we're like woo-woo tough broads, I guess. Meditation to me has been huge, and I struggle to meditate. So especially if you're a type A person whose brain works really fast. I think I was once described as a mosquito drinking Red Bull is my personality.
Brilliant.
Yes, this is, if you're into personality assessments, the Culture Index is where, we need to do that for you. Keith wants us to do that with you. You need to do that. So my personality came back as persuader, which is good because I'm in sales, but described as a mosquito on Red Bull because of the way my brain functions and works. So it's really hard for me to center and to focus. So 10 minutes of meditation for me works really well. And I try to add a minute every time I'm at the 10-minute point right now. But I set a timer, and I'm giving advice only because people are like, I can't meditate. It's possible. If you set a timer, I listen to classical music, and then I come up with a couple phrases to say to myself, like, I'm going to kill it today. I'm going to rock it today, whatever. I'm going to have a phrase that I keep repeating to myself, listening to classical music, put the timer on. And then I just feel so zen and calm. And I set my intentions in that meditation of like, what am I going to do today? The one thing I'm going to get done. And then I don't have any overwhelm, but I haven't done that for the past week.
And such a good point, Gina. I prefer guided meditations, and there's a lot of great apps out there.
I've tried those.
Well, it depends on your thing. And some people, really, if you study meditation, the way that you're doing it is the more proper way to do it. But for people that I speak to that are really have a fear of meditation or feel a failure at it or whatever, just grab an app. There's a Calm app. I've been using one called Insight Timer. It's really awesome. And this is the thing about meditation. People tell me often, I'm just terrible at it. My mind just doesn't shut off. Exactly. That's the point. The point of meditation is it's a practice. You practice it because it's just a few minutes, like Gina said, maybe 10 minutes, that you try to let your brain have a break from all that chatter that's constantly, I know my brain is constantly trying to figure things out, trying to not forget anything, trying to make mental notes, trying to sort out ideas, coming up with new ideas. And when I do a little short meditation, it's a time when I try to stop doing all that for just a second. I mean, think of it this way. If you were to have your body in motion constantly, if you were to be running on a treadmill constantly all day long with zero break at all, how would you feel? Exhausted, right?
That's how my brain feels.
So exactly. Your brain is working that hard and it's actually probably my brain at least is running on like 6 treadmills at once. So to give it a little break is crucial to being able to think clearly, being able to make better decisions, and being able to get along with others.
Whew.
Right, Gina?
Yeah, you just overwhelmed me with all that. I forgot what my next point was. I had a point. I don't remember what it is. It'll come back to me. Advice, Rachel, for how to handle clients more in the overwhelm. I think for me, it is really listening to them, giving them space to talk, giving them space. Sometimes you're not going to close the deal right away, and pushing it in that moment is you have to be able to do the dance to know whether or not that is the right moment. And you have to be able to read the buying cues. If they're interested in you. You might not close the deal because they actually have overwhelm going on in their lives or their work lives, that it's hard for them to make a decision on the spot. So I think you have to be careful on doing that dance and reading them before pushing them.
Yes. And when you're giving them space to tell you what's going on, to really hear them. Really, I try to really hear my clients. Example, I have these really wonderful clients. They're super sweet and I love them. Or we're closing on a condo next week. And I have shown them so many houses. We've written so many offers. They wrote a couple of lowball offers. Then they lost the deal. Like, we've been through so many things. And there's some salespeople out there that might say, forget these people. They aren't real serious buyers. And what I found with them was every situation, they had real valid concerns about maybe this just isn't the right house. And I believe in real estate that when it's the right house, it just works out. It all falls into place and it works out. But I had to
kind of like dating.
Yeah. Right. That too. And just to really hear what their concerns are and address those concerns, and not just my concerns of closing the deal and getting the commission. What is the real, because if I serve my clients the right way and really hear them and get them what they really want, not just get them something near what they want, they're going to have a great buying experience. And the most important thing about giving that client a great buying experience is all the people that they'll tell about that great buying experience.
Awesome, Rachel. So today we've been talking about overwhelm in your business, overwhelm with your clients, overwhelm in your life, how to overcome overwhelm. And we've talked about a couple different ways that you can do that. It's time to wrap up this show.
Disappointing.
But there's more. There's more after this. We're going to wrap it up. If you want to learn more about our show, Women Your Mother Warned You About, you can go to womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com or the Gina and Rachel Show.com or our Facebook page. And for me personally, Gina Tremarco, you can reach me at ginatremarco.com. And Rachel, how can people find out more about you?
You can find out about me at RachelOnRealEstate.com if you're looking to buy or sell real estate. Or you can also, again, find that How to Buy a Home guide at theclosingcurve.com, or you can find me all over social media, Rachel Tipton.
Everybody have a great day. Thanks for listening to us. And don't forget to go on over to all of those different apps where you can hear us and give us a rating and review for Women Your Mother Warned You About. See ya.
This really will get serious soon.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. I don't think anybody wants it to be serious.
This has been a presentation of the Sell or Die Network. For more podcasts that you can take out into the street and turn into money, visit sellerdienetwork.com.